When even Mason Mount's biggest critics are admitting they were wrong, something has genuinely changed. For 3 years, he's been a £55 million punchline, injury-prone, a waste, finished. But what if I told you that this pre-season, Mason Mount hasn't just quietly come good, he's played so well next to André Santos that he might have just knocked United's expensive new signings out of the team. Against Atletico Madrid, he was man of the match ahead of everyone. Most passes into the final third, most chances created. This is not the same Mason Mount. And by part 3, you'll see why Youri Tielemans and Kobbie Mainoo should be worried. Before we go deeper, hit like, hype the video, and subscribe if you enjoy these United breakdowns. It really helps the channel reach more United fans. Part 1. The critics have caved. Let's start with the reaction, because it tells you everything. Mason Mount critics have spent years tearing him apart, always injured, never available. A £55 million mistake who couldn't string 10 games together. And honestly, they had a point. For 3 seasons, that was a fair description. But watch what happened after the Atletico game. Some of those same critics, the ones who had spent years writing him off, came out and called him the best player on the pitch. Not good, not improved. The best player out there, ahead of everyone. Think about how rare that is. Not fans hoping, not pundits being polite. People who had made a hobby out of doubting this man, suddenly admitting they were watching something they couldn't explain away. That doesn't happen after one tidy performance. It happens when a player you'd completely given up on does something you physically cannot deny. And it wasn't one voice. Across the United fan base, the mood flipped. The same people typing, "waste of money" for 3 years were handing him man of the match. Now, I'm not here to blow smoke. The injuries were real. The inconsistency was real. Every bit of that frustration was earned. The doubters were not wrong to doubt, but something has shifted, and when the harshest critics in the room go quiet, then start clapping, you stop and pay attention. So let's look at exactly what they saw, because the numbers behind this performance are genuinely hard to argue with. Part 2. The Atletico Masterclass. So what did they actually see? Let's go to the numbers, because this is where it stops being about vibes. 90 minutes against Atletico Madrid, not a cameo. Not managed minutes off the bench, a full 90 against a well-drilled, aggressive Diego Simeone side that closes you down for fun. And in that 90, Mason Mount led the entire pitch in the 3 metrics that matter most for a midfielder. 13 passes into the final third, the most of any player on the pitch. That is the number that breaks a defensive block, the pass that turns safe possession into a genuine chance. 3 key passes, again the most on the pitch. Nobody created more. 5 recoveries, the most on the pitch. So he wasn't just creating, he was winning the ball back to do it again. Read that back. Most passes into the final third, most chances created, most balls recovered. One player topped all 3 in all 3 phases against Atletico Madrid. And it was the guy everyone had written off. Add in 89% pass completion and 67 touches, and you don't have a lucky highlight. You have a midfielder controlling a game from box to box, doing the defensive work and the creative work in the same 90 minutes. This is the profile United have been crying out for. Someone who wins it and uses it. And for one match at least, the man doing it wore number 7. But here's what makes it dangerous. It wasn't just Mason Mount. Part 3. Why Youri Tielemans and Kobbie Mainoo should be worried. Here's the part that should make United's summer signings nervous. Because Mason Mount didn't do this on his own. He did it next to André Santos. And the pair of them looked like they'd been playing together for years. Watch how it worked. André Santos sat, screened, won the ball, and kept things simple. That freed Mason Mount to push higher, roam, and do the damage. One does the dirty work, the other does the creating, and they swap when the game asks them to. That is not 2 players in the same team. That is a partnership. And here's why that's so hard to play against. When you press Mason Mount, André Santos is the safe out behind him. When you jump on André Santos, Mason Mount is already turning in the space you left. Cover one, the other hurts you. There is no obvious way to shut the pair of them down. Now think about the pecking order. United spent this summer building a new midfield. Youri Tielemans to control games. Kobbie Mainoo, the academy jewel everyone wants to see. The assumption was simple. Those are your starters, everyone else fits around them. Except Mason Mount and André Santos didn't get that memo. They've started, they've clicked. And for a few games now, they've looked really good together. So Carrick has a problem, and it's a good one. If this continues, Youri Tielemans and Kobbie Mainoo aren't walking into this team. They're competing for it. Part 4. The deeper role changes everything. So why is this happening now? Why, after 3 frustrating years, is Mason Mount suddenly this effective? The answer is the role. Michael Carrick has changed his job, and it might be the smartest thing anyone at United has done with him. For years, Mason Mount was asked to be a number 10, play on the last line between the opposition midfield and defence, in the tightest, most crowded space on the pitch, competing directly with Bruno Fernandes for the same real estate. It never quite fit. He was good, but he was a slightly worse version of a player United already had. Carrick has pulled him deeper. Now Mason Mount starts from a midfield 2, with the whole game in front of him, rather than his back to goal. And everything that made him frustrating in the 10 suddenly becomes a strength. His constant movement, now it drags deeper midfielders out of shape. His pressing, now it starts higher up the pitch and wins the ball in dangerous areas. His passing range, now he's got time and space to actually use it, breaking lines instead of forcing things in traffic. This is the key point. Mason Mount isn't playing better because he's trying harder. He's playing better because he's finally in a role that fits him. And a player in his right position doesn't just have a good week, he has a good season. That's what makes this more than a preseason flash. It's an actual fix. Part 5, what never left. Here's the thing about Mason Mount that never actually left, even in the worst of it: the effort. Go back through the frustrating seasons, the injuries, the dips in form. One thing stayed constant. When Mason Mount was on the pitch, he ran, he pressed, he chased lost causes nobody else would. His work rate never dropped, even when everything else did. And that matters more than people realize, because you cannot coach that into a player. You either have that engine or you don't. Now put that engine in a Carrick side built on pressing from the front, and it becomes a weapon. When Mason Mount presses, others follow. Intensity is contagious. He sets the tempo for how hard the whole team works without the ball. And against Atletico, you could see it. United closed down, forced mistakes, and the second goal came directly from that pressure. That is, Mason Mount's game translating perfectly into Carrick's system. He has Champions League medals. He has been to the top. In a dressing room this young, that experience is worth more than any single performance. He mentors, he organizes, he steadies. So this isn't just a player rediscovering form, it's a leader the squad needs. But let's be honest about the other side of all this. Part 6, the honest bit. Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend the doubts have vanished. They haven't. And if you're feeling cautious right now, you're right to. Start with the obvious one, the injuries. This is the single biggest reason Mason Mount became a punchline, and it hasn't magically been solved by a few good preseason games. Multiple absences every single season since he arrived. He has almost never put together a long, uninterrupted run of matches in a United shirt. And he's 27 now, not 21. If the fitness problems come back, United are right back where they started, holding an expensive midfielder they can't rely on. And then there's the caveat hanging over this entire video. It's pre-season. Atletico had a rotated side. The intensity is not Premier League intensity, and it definitely is not Champions League intensity. We have seen promising pre-season Mason Mount before. We've seen short bursts of brilliance before. And every single time, something has interrupted it. That is the fear, and it is completely fair. So let's be balanced. Nothing here is proof. A few performances in July do not erase 3 years of frustration. A fit, in-form Mason Mount is a brilliant footballer. The entire question, the only question that has ever mattered with him, is that first word, fit. If he stays fit, everything in this video is real, and United have a serious player. If he doesn't, we'll be having this exact conversation again next summer. Part 7, what it means for United. So let's zoom out, because if that one word holds, this is bigger than one player's redemption. Think about the options this suddenly gives Carrick, because United's midfield isn't thin anymore. It's a menu. Need to control a game and keep the ball, Youri Tielemans. Need legs, pressing and ball winning against a top side, Andre Santos. Want a young driving runner who carries it through the lines, Kobbie Mainoo. And now a fit Mason Mount, the box-to-box link who does a bit of everything, presses, creates and breaks lines from deep. That's 4 genuinely different profiles for 2 or 3 midfield spots. Michael Carrick can pick the right pair for the right opponent, rest a player without the level dropping, and cover an injury without panic. And here's the part that might quietly change United's summer. Everyone has spent this window screaming for a third midfielder. But what if Mount, in this form, is that solution? What if the player United needed was already in the building, just in the wrong role? I'm not calling it yet. It's early, and that fitness question still hangs over everything. But if this continues, United's entire transfer plan might look very different. That's a genuine possibility worth watching. So let me ask you, is this finally the real Mason Mount, or another preseason tease we'll have forgotten by October? Drop your verdict below.